Dom Doring, welcome to the FOMO Lounge.
Hello, mate.
Thank you very much for coming in today. It's very exciting to talk to you.
Pleasure.
For those of you that don't know Dom, he is a filmmaker, DOP Director, based out of Bath, but with most of your work in London.
Correct, yeah.
Excellent. Well, Dom, you've achieved a lot in a short career. You're still a young man. You're self-taught in many ways. You didn't take the traditional route to get to where you are. I would love to know a bit more about kind of how that came about and what got you into this crazy industry.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a weird question, that, isn't it? Because I feel like you get asked it a lot, like why are you doing what you're doing? How did you get into it? Because it's such an interesting career. But I honestly can't peg where it started. I remember getting a camcorder when I was probably 6 or 7 years old from my dad, and ever since I've just been kind of shooting stuff. Remember watching the sort of behind the scenes videos of like Spider-Man films and stuff, and like kind of being like, that just looks amazing, and like I'd love to like get into that. And so yeah, eventually ended up just kind of shooting videos all the time on my phone of my friends down the street. Like, bless them, they just had to get involved all the time with the old little like Sony Ericsson phone and made little videos. And yeah, eventually ended up going to like a 1 week film course, it was called Club Flicks, and the whole idea was that it was like a half term sort of, you get to go and make a film in like 1 week, and someone just from down the road, someone that we grew up with, came up the road with a newspaper with a flyer and was like, this is perfect. You just like never like, I don't know, maybe I'll do it. And I took the last spot.
Wow.
And I can't remember how old I was. I must have been, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, something like that,
Yeah.
And went to this 1 week course, and that was it. It sealed the deal,
Really? So you knew quite quickly, did you, that you were, it inspired you, it had turned something on inside you?
Yeah. I mean, let's put it this way. I don't know if I want to share this, but I cried after the week because I was
Wow.
like, that kind of like, this is what I want to do. I don't want to not do this, which is so funny.
That's powerful.
It's fun. It's like a funny thing to think about. But yeah, I don't know. Like, yeah, it's just like, there was never sort of should I do this? Is this something I want to do? It's just like, I turned up to this thing and I was like, I love it.
Okay, but this is age 10, 11. I imagine you didn't start your professional career as soon as you'd finished your 1 week course.
No,
was there a hiatus?
incredible, actually. That'd be a good story.
That would be. Steven Spielberg wasn't far off, I don't think.
No.
But what happened after that? How did you kind of get into professional work eventually?
Yeah, so I was quite fortunate actually, because that club eventually, they did like week courses quite often, and so I'd go back to them and kind of, I guess in some ways, like grew up with them as like a filmmaker, and ended up eventually, I think probably about 16, 17, I was working in Waitrose, working in a coffee shop, and still wanted to make films, but kind of, you're that age where you got to make a bit of money and that sort of stuff. And the lady who ran that company was at the checkout at Waitrose, and she was like, is this what you're doing? Because I'd left sixth form early, right? And she's like, is this what you're doing? And I said, yeah. She's like, you still into the filmmaking? I was like, yeah, I'd love to, do it. And she was very kind enough to say, like, look, I can offer you a job actually if you want.
Wow.
And so I was still doing Waitrose on the side, but basically was working for them 5 days a week. And so, yeah, I mean, kind of a fortunate situation really, but I guess I'd kind of grown up in this film club, had been going back, month after month doing stuff with them, and eventually was kind of working for them in not the most glamorous job, but I was just grateful to be sort of doing something,
Yeah. Do you think that's important, when you start out in, well, I suppose it's in any industry, but you have to be relatively humble and know that there's going to be a certain amount of graft at the lower echelons of the industry, right?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's probably got the story, don't they, of like just the sort of coming up times in their career and stuff. And yeah, I mean, working there kind of, taught me a little bit about what I necessarily didn't want to do. I wouldn't say it was a bad environment or like I didn't enjoy it, in case they're listening. No, but genuinely, I think it was just like, I was sat there and I was kind of like doing little edits or like archiving footage. And like, I'm 16 years old. Like, I can't be going on the shoots. I can't be going on the big shoots. So it's like, of course I'm in that position, and I was getting paid good money, for that age. I remember buying lots of film equipment at the time because I was just like, I'm just going to reinvest. And like, I was lucky to be living at home at the time, and so it's the perfect opportunity to just kind of, it's like there's not really much of a risk because
Right.
it's like if this didn't go well, I'll just pick up more hours at Waitrose, or like at least I'm at home, and so yeah, I kind of learned a little bit about like, and the types of jobs they were doing as well were very corporate jobs, and it's just my first introduction to it. So yeah, definitely learned a lot from that about like what I did like and also what I didn't like.
So from there, did you have a sense of what you wanted to do in the future? Were you still testing the water and trying different elements of the filmmaking process? Like, how did you progress?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was fortunate enough to do a few shoots whilst I was there for them, and also I was doing my own stuff, like trying to progress what I was doing as a filmmaker in my own right. And through some reasons, I ended up kind of leaving because there was a couple of different complications within the company, and so I ended up working at this coffee shop that I was talking about alongside Waitrose. And I remember my friends were sat. I have lots of friends who are sort of in the freelance sort of creative sphere, photographers, musicians, all this sort of stuff. And I remember I was literally serving my friends coffee, and they'd be sat there like on the other side of the bar, like working on their laptops, doing their stuff. And I was like, man, that's what I want to be sat on the other side of the bar, like like editing or whatever. And there was a few opportunities that kept on coming up, and we're skipping a lot here, but I'd met a lot of people and there are different opportunities, and I was doing a few freelance sort of bits. But as you'd probably expect, when you're doing a full-time job, it's like it's not as easy as just being like, oh, I'm just going to ditch today and kind of do something. So all these opportunities kept on coming up, and I had to keep turning them down. And so eventually I just kind of like took the plunge. And again, based off of this, like, I'm living at home, I don't have much money myself, but look, if this is going to be the right thing, and for me, it always was. It was like, I want to do this, and whether it makes money or not, I want to do it. But let's give it a go. Will it make money? And just took the plunge, right?
So you really felt like there was this kind of burning creativity within you, and it just it was worth taking a shot and going for it.
I guess so. That sounds really poetic when you say it like that, but. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was just like, I don't know. I've not necessarily been the most like ambitious in the sense where it's like, I'm gonna go get it. And like, but I think it was just like, it's what I want to do. And not that it was all encompassing, but it was like, I couldn't imagine my life where I wasn't trying to do it, and even still now when I'm in positions where perhaps there isn't as much work or whatever, I'm still kind of like back in that sort of mindset of like, but I love doing it, so I want to do it. And I guess lots of creatives can probably relate to that sort of mindset,
Especially because it's an industry in which often financial reward is not guaranteed, and there is the constant pull of other options in perhaps safer careers, right? And in any moment of doubt, those thoughts must come in. Oh, I could be playing it safer and doing something else. Mm-hmm. How have you dealt with those sorts of doubts over the years? Or have you never had them?
No, I've definitely had them. Yeah. I mean, at this coffee shop, it was kind of, again, run by friends, and one of those just kind of fun opportunities. And I remember I took the plunge. I went freelance, and a couple of, maybe even a month after that, I literally went back to the manager because I wasn't getting the work that I thought I was going to be getting.
Really?
Not that I don't know what I was expecting, but you kind of think I'm all in. This is going to happen. And I remember going back and just being like, I was like, can I pick up some shifts? And he was like, absolutely. And I think I did one shift, and then after that, it just did actually take off. So like the safety was kind of there. But I've just been, I've been very fortunate, and again, not to sound like a broken record, but being at home was really quite a good safety net, for building the career and being a bit experimental. And look, I took every kind of work, nothing was beneath what I could do. I would be working in all sorts of areas. And I was very fortunate at that time with one of my best friends to have met this guy who I ended up working with a lot in an agency in London. And so, I'm like, I must be like 17, 18 at this point. And I'm traveling up to London like 2 or 3 times a week to come and work, and work with this agency and being paid, now when I look back, maybe not as much money as I could have, but at the time I was like, man, I'm making good money. I'm in London. And it's like, I'm doing it. And so, I don't know, like, I guess just taking the plunge, there's an element of luck in some ways, right? Like you got to be lucky, but I was definitely looking for it. I was very hungry, and when I met this guy, it wasn't like, oh, I've met you and I've heard what you do. Okay, I wish I could be doing that. Like,
Was there a specific moment where you kind of went out on a limb and asked for work, or
yeah,
shared some of your work with him?
yeah. Well, I mean, I shared a lot about because he was telling me like what he did, and I was literally just kind of like, oh my gosh, that's like what I want to do and stuff. And so, yeah, there was a couple of shoots where he said, look, I can get you on if you want, and for me, I was like, that's amazing. And they didn't work out because I was in Bath, and he was like, they don't have the budget to kind of get you up on the train. I remember just being like, are you kidding me? Like, I just, I really want to go. And so, yeah, eventually, the opportunity arose. I went on some shoots with them, and yeah, I mean, again, I guess like at the time I was kind of giving it my all. I wanted to prove myself, I wanted to be like, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm hungry. And thankfully they saw a lot in that. And so I ended up working with them much longer for many years, actually.
Really?
Editing and eventually shooting. And
yeah,
it was amazing. Like that, when I look back, those years really changed. That they were probably the most drastic years in how I changed as a filmmaker. And at the time, I didn't necessarily know that cinematography was probably the focus that I wanted to go in on. I kind of loved every element of it. And so, yeah, I was editing a lot and really enjoying that, and then ended up shooting. And when I was shooting, I was because I was editing all of this guy's footage, and like for me, I was like, he was a big sort of inspiration in terms of like the work that he was doing. And so I was editing his footage, and everything I was seeing for me was just like, I was like, oh, that's a great idea of how to do the shot. And, and I had the raw files. So I'd be like in Premiere, like opening up the raw files. And I'd be like, interesting. He was at like 2.8 on that. And he was, and it was like,
wow,
which was really fun. Like you don't get many opportunities where you literally just get to dissect someone's work straight off the bat. So,
and yeah, you would only get that opportunity if you get out there, meet people, and if there's only a certain amount of learning you can get online and from a computer, in your bedroom or whatever you might be. Like, I guess you were out there, and I remember you saying that you were invited on a trip out to Iceland and so on, and getting these like real world experiences, probably high pressure environments, kind of global brands and so on at an early age. And I imagine you learned a lot from them.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, it was interesting because I was in that age bracket where I was a little bit too young to be going on these shoots. And I remember him saying like, I could be getting you on these shoots, but like, unfortunately you're too young. And like, I remember for me, I was like, what does that mean? Just get me on the shoot. I want to be on these shoots. But now when I look back, I'm like, it makes sense, whether that's a good practice sort of for work, I don't know, but it makes sense. But yeah, I was on so many amazing shoots, and like, look, the experience is probably what pushed me so much further, right? Like you were kind of alluding to there, like, I didn't do university, and I don't know what university would have given me, or what film school would have given me, or what a college course would have given me. But the one thing I always kind of thought back to when I wasn't doing these things was like, surely when you come out of these things, you still have to go and get experience and build a portfolio. And I could be wrong, I don't know, but it's worked for me so far, and I've never been asked to see a degree or to see whatever. So I mean, the experience has been amazing, and yeah, like you said, like being able to travel and do crazy stuff, it's like I have to pinch myself and just be like, okay, life is pretty decent, like I'm kind of doing this stuff and it's working so far. So hopefully it carries on,
You mentioned that you're perhaps starting to specialize in one discipline, being cinematography.
Yes.
That's taken a while to get to that stage. A lot of your career has been spent doing various things, is it editing, directing, and other, other parts of the process. What do you have any advice to anyone who is still struggling to decide whether they should be a jack of all trades, or they should be, just focusing on one of them? I know in my limited filmmaking career, it was always an anxiety of mine. It's like, shit, am I spreading myself too thinly? You can't truly be a master of all of them. There's only a certain amount of hours in the day. How have you kind of lived with that balance and that decision?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I feel like a lot of people are in similar positions, aren't they? Like, I don't know, I'm still kind of figuring it out, I think. Like, especially even kind of in the last few months, I feel like I'm making new decisions for myself that I'm like, this is cool. And I'm by no means at the top of my game, you know, like there's people above me or in front of me that I'm like still trying to catch up to, you know, which, and I can still look back and be like, wow, I've come a long way, you know. And I don't know, like I've done it all. Like you're saying, I've been the editor, the producer, the director, the kind of everything on set.
Yeah.
And you know, there's been times where I've been a lot more busy with work, and when I've been busier, I've kind of used that as an opportunity to kind of say no to things where I would be that kind of yes, sort of like I can do everything.
Yeah.
And basically been kind of a little bit picked and choose, you know, what I wanted to do. So cinematography being that main thing, you know. Yeah, I mean, again, like you know, when there's like budgets there, perhaps sometimes it's like, actually, I might sacrifice some of the budget this time to get someone to direct, to get someone to edit, so that I can focus solely on one thing. And, you know, I'm not going to take as much money, but actually it's going to go on my portfolio. I would have been the cinematographer, the DP, whatever. Yeah. And I guess I'm a little bit of a believer that like the work that you want to get, you kind of have to show you have to get to get it, right? Like you can't just turn up and be shooting a commercial when you've only been shooting weddings. I mean, maybe you can, but not in the big leagues, I'm imagining, you know?
You mentioned once that there was a music video for an upcoming artist that you got given a small budget for, but you decided to throw everything at it. Yeah. You know, you had to pay some people, you paid them, but you certainly didn't pay yourself, or, you know, and you saw that as an opportunity, right? As opposed to a money earner.
Yeah, I mean, again, fortunate because I'm obviously making money somewhere else, but yeah, I did this shoot for an artist called Jake Isaac, and I think the budget was like maybe 1,500 or something like that. And I've been wanting to shoot on 16mm film for so long, and I've got a friend who shoots on it, and I just reached out to him. I said, like, look, if I can, how much is it going to cost realistically? You know, like, and each roll only gives you like 9 minutes of film. So it's like,
can't fuck around.
Exactly. And he was like, we can get you 2 rolls of film, this, that, the other, and everything. And he was like, including his time, he was like, we can do it for like 1,200 or something. And I was like, okay, that's cool. That's cool. You know, I was like, so I'm going to need some actors. Okay, I'll pay for the actors. Okay, I'm going to need an assist. Like, he needed like a loader. Okay, I'm going to pay for that. And it's like, that's the budget gone. But like, we made a video that like, I don't know, I arguably is one of those kind of game changer videos for me again, where like, you know, looking back when I was at the agency, there were projects where I was like, that was a step up for me, you know? And then like, for me, it was like, I really want to shoot on film and I want to have the opportunity, and it could be rubbish. It could not be what it lives up to, but I'm going to do it at some point, and this is going to be, you know, the time. So I did it, and I'm glad I did it, man. Like I wasn't the DP on it, obviously. I was just directing it, but it was such a fun way to experience it firsthand. And yeah, I don't regret it at all, you know? Like,
and it's the constant battle, I think, in this industry of, if you just do the stuff that you get hired to do, you might find yourself getting pigeonholed and might not get the opportunity to really progress the way you want to. And you have to take it, you know, work for free, or, you know, go searching for the work that is going to look good for your show reel, or is going to help you progress in the direction you want to go. It seems unfair that so much work gets done at such low rates or for free in this industry, but it is baked into the way it works, it seems.
Especially when you want it. It's like instantly you're like, okay, I'll take a pay cut, I don't mind. Yeah, totally. I recently have decided that my portfolio to mostly is like music videos and glitchy effects and kind of like a bit darker cinematic. I love that. Like, that is kind of me through and through in some ways. But I was like, you know what, when I'm 50, I want to look back and be like, I want to be able to say, that was crazy when I did that commercial, like when I went here. And like, yeah, like you were saying, it's kind of like you do have to do a little bit of work and kind of sacrifice a bit to be able to get it. And so recently I've been like, you know, before I wouldn't be doing like interview stuff, because for me it bores me, you know. And there's some people who can do amazing interview shots, and I was like, nobody out there knows that I can do an interview shot. And I feel like as a cinematographer, and again, this is just my perception of it, I should be able to mold myself to like what I can do, and not just be like, every time I do it, I'm like, I'm always this really moody, sort of like you have to chuck loads of effects over the edit because it's kind
Right.
of not, you know.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm just gonna like take on some projects where I'm just doing interviews, and so reached out to some friends like who have companies that are doing much more corporate sort of stuff, and just said like, you know, are you interested in that sort of thing? And sure enough, I've been shooting interviews at a very low rate, but now I have interviews in my portfolio,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and it's like, that doesn't necessarily get me towards commercials, but I feel like it shows a cleaner look, you know, and you know, I haven't done this yet, but my idea was like, oh, perhaps there's you know, I've got a friend who's got a jewelry business, not a massive business, but perhaps she needs some, you know, some like shots of things, and like, I don't know, like that's kind of like I'm saying it now, not really knowing whether it's I have to come back on and tell you whether it works or not, but that's kind of my understanding, right? Like you do have to prove yourself a little bit, and sometimes you get these lucky opportunities where you're just doing it, and sometimes it's because someone's seen what you've done and they're like, man, that's what I want, you know.
Yeah. And how do you win your work?
I don't know. I mean, a combination of, to be honest, the majority is probably spoken word, like word of mouth, not spoken word. That's poetry, isn't it? But
I was going to say, if you want it through spoken word,
I'm just
that
out
would
on
be
the
novel.
street like a street preacher. Just No, they yeah, like people that I know. Again, I'm grateful to be in a sort of community of people where there are lots of musicians like who want music videos, and
So community and network is important.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I kind of hate the whole idea of networking. Like, I feel like you always get told, "Oh, you gotta be networking," and it's
a dirty
like,
word, isn't it?
I don't want to network. You know,
No.
like it just feels so like artificial. Like, and there's people who are really good at it, and I'm just not. You know, so yeah, I think it's like, you know, maybe it's perhaps more of a life choice of where I am with who I am. You know, but thankfully it's paid off because I've had enough people to call upon, or they know me. You know.
And what about showing off your work? What channels do you use, kind of, you know, online and so on?
Yeah, I mean, so website and Instagram, really. I mean, I've got a love-hate relationship with Instagram because of the whole sort of comparison, and you know, and
Really?
and everyone, you know, I don't know, it just feels sometimes a little bit like, oh, I'm kind of feeding into the things that I hate seeing of other people because it's
Which is what?
bit curated. You know what I mean?
Like, oh, I'm so busy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
That happens. That you agree that there's a game that gets
I see there's a
played.
question you want to ask it.
Yeah, well, no, I'm just interested that it does seem to be a slight running theme that there's a game that people, you know, that everyone in the industry plays where you do show yourself to be busy, and there's perhaps there's a certain negativity associated with not being busy, and that, you know, that can lead to poor mental health and stuff like that. I don't know whether that's any, you know, is this a game you played, and are you open to like saying so?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have at some point, haven't we?
Yeah.
Like trying to like traverse the sort of Instagram world of how to do it. But yeah, I mean, I've got a friend, and he won't mind me saying this, but like he's an incredible photographer, signed to an amazing agency, and literally he's just like posting pretty frequently, probably every day, like some new work and stuff. And he's my best friend, you know. So I literally said to him, I was like, mate, you're doing so much work.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not.
Really?
And I was like, I kind of felt a bit like, oh man, like we're good, like I should know that, you know. But he was like, bro, I'm not. He's like, I'm just doing this because I need to look busy. Because he's like, agencies want to see that I'm busy, and I don't know whether that's a good thing or not, but it definitely seems to be a thing.
Yeah.
I don't post that much at all. I just post my work, and I think it's a nice way to present work. And people always look up people's Instagrams, right? And it's a nice way to kind of flick through sort of things. And you know, you tend to end up meeting other filmmakers and doing more maybe collaborative pieces through Instagram as opposed to like actual work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a love-hate relationship. And you know, being the person who's seeing the other people doing it, is like sometimes I just got to get off Instagram, you know.
Really?
It's yeah, I mean, you know, especially like January, February for me is quite a dry month. I don't know if that's true.
I suspect a lot of people bank a load of work in like November,
saying,
December,
you know?
and then like just like trickle it out in January.
I'm like, why is everyone working in January? Like,
why is it so sunny where they are?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'm like, yeah, I don't know, but it's funny because then I'll post something, or like I'll have friends and they'll be like, you're always on a plane. I can't believe you're in Bath. And I'm like, I've literally been in Bath for like the last 2 months. Like, you know what I mean? But it's like everyone's perception is just kind of skewed through social media, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, you could talk about that for flipping hours.
Yeah, sure. What would you say the highlights of your career have been so far? Milestone moments, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. I think when I looking back, probably, you know, referring to that agency again, like that, the step up I took, like from there, I guess it's not like a specific time, but that kind of period felt really, I don't think I appreciated it as much as I wish I did, like now looking back. Um, I've done some amazing shoots, you know, I've been to like Abu Dhabi and Macau and like
Cool.
traveled for shoots, which is amazing, you know,
Yeah.
and you know, you can't deny that going somewhere for a shoot feels really special, you know,
Definitely.
and especially when you get paid to do it, it's like, I would literally take no money for this, you know. Yeah, I don't know. And then probably, yeah, just those kind of, those passion projects where like maybe I've taken a sacrifice or a hit for things. And like, I think the biggest thing that I've realized in my work is that the process for me is actually kind of more important than the end result. In the sense that like the projects where I've loved doing them, I kind of love the end result because it's been like this sort of like, you know, there's been this process where I've like really enjoyed doing this, and here's the thing, and perhaps it's not exactly what I wanted, but it's great. And then those projects where like you know, you can go like, that's actually a very good video, but it was a nightmare to get there. I don't, you know, it's like I don't remember that well, so I kind of don't love it as much. I don't know if
Right.
that makes sense at all, but like I've realized that a lot. So it's like for me, the process is almost more important than like the end result, you know.
And is that to say that the processes, do you prefer the ones that you're involved with a greater degree, you know, from start to finish, perhaps, like the ideation and creative side of things, or, you know, and less so the ones where you just get pulled in to DOP it or whatever?
Yeah, both, to be honest. I
Really?
think. I mean, I'm loving more and more just being a DP on a
Yeah.
shoot because it's what I haven't done as much, so it's more exciting to me. And I do love just turning up and just kind of doing what I do and just like leaving it and being like, it does not matter how this comes out now. I did the best I can. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had this trip where I went to the US to visit my friends, and I had my camera with me, and he was asking, he was like, oh, he's a poet, so he's like, can we do a video? And I was like, oh, like I really didn't want to, and I was like, yeah, okay, like, yeah, fine, like, yeah, we could do a
Fuck,
video.
I thought I was on holiday.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you kidding me? Like, but so yeah, we came up with this like concept, and it was really simple and all sort of stuff. And went to Walmart, bought a smoke machine, had this like location, was just their mates, you know, like derelict, like living room stuff. And we shot this project. And like as we were shooting it, it was one of those ones where you're like, oh, okay, this looks really good, you know. And it's like, and then I pointed at it, I was like, oh, that looks really good. And actually, if I get you to do that, it's like, and then suddenly, like, it was just all falling into place. And then the next day, you know, we just went to a coffee shop, and I was like, I'm just going to edit it. And like, I edited it up, showed my friend, like, stuck the headphones on. She was watching it, and she was just like, this is so good. And like, you know, not to blow my mind, you know, it's not the most incredible video ever, but it was like how simple it was and just how beautiful the process was. And like, I still look back at that video now and I'm like, I love that video, you know?
Really?
And like, and I have friends who say they love it. I have friends who are indifferent, you know? Like, but for
And this
me,
was-
it meant a lot, you know?
So maybe you need to remember once in a while that you don't need all the kit and crew and so on. Sometimes you can strip it right back.
Yeah.
Just like raw creativity will shine through.
I mean, that's a bad advert for your rental company, but yeah, you can,
Oh shit!
you can
No,
strip it.
don't. You need all the kit. You need gimbals. You need full sets of lens.
No, the one thing I wish I had was that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, kind of in some ways, it was just like, I mean, ironically, we were creating for the love of it, but it started from me not really wanting to do it. But
Yeah.
as soon as things were falling into place, it's like, this is cool. You're just in like some like flow where it's happening, you know? And
Wow.
yeah, still look back on like fond memories on that shoot, and it was literally 2 hours, you know, and
Wow.
it made a very simple 2-minute video that I'm just like, that was a good project, you know.
How do you balance passion projects and projects that pay the bills?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, right now, being transparent, I'm in a position where I don't really have the money or time to be doing passion projects, and I guess that's a sad thing, really, because I'd love to be progressing in the work that I'd like to be doing more of, but I don't know. Like, I mean, like I said before, nothing's really beneath me. Like, I'm a cinematographer. Like, and that's something that I find difficult to actually come to terms with. The same way that even when I first became a filmmaker, you know, telling someone I'm a filmmaker feels
because you feel like you're somehow not worthy of that title.
Yeah, which I think I know deep down is like is obviously an insecurity and a little bit silly, because if my friend who was a photographer said, "Oh, I don't really feel like a photographer," I'd be like, "Of course you're a photographer," you know. But yeah, I don't know, like kind of, since I still feel like I'm in that, like, can I call myself a cinematographer? And look, that's partly because you see people who are cinematographers, you know, they say that they are, and you're just like, am I? Do I do that? Do I live up to that? And so, yeah, nothing's kind of beneath me. Like at this moment right now, I'm like, if some edit work comes in, like I'm all for it, because I could really do with the money. And you know, I just had a son 10 months ago, so we got a
Oh
10-month-old
wow!
boy.
Congratulations.
And thank you. Yeah, and yeah, like it's been amazing because I was able to take like a month off to be with him, and like not many people get to do that. And again, just taking it because I can, like I'm not going to waste the opportunity. And but then that month turned into like 7 months, like not out of choice, just out of like you know, my wife had a tricky birth, so I needed to be around more.
Yeah.
Work just didn't come back in as quick, and so suddenly
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like the month off would have been nice, but this is 7 months now, and I'm like, I've been doing like a minimal amount of work compared to, you know, what I was doing a couple of years ago. And so yeah, now I'm kind of in that position where I'm just like, I'm just going to take more work on.
Yeah.
And like I said, with the project with Jake Isaac, where I used the money to go into it, that's a great opportunity for me to turn it into a passion project, because there is a budget, you know. And it's like, not everyone has cash lying around to do passion projects, unfortunately. But you know, when I do, and if I have a surplus of money that I want to reinvest, or I've got an idea, then I definitely will be taking the opportunity to do it, because I think it's really important, I think.
And I think one of the difficult dichotomies in this world is the one of like creativity on one side and business on the other, in terms of, you can be the best, you can have the brightest creative mind in the world, but if you don't know how to sell it, you don't know how to sell yourself,
Yeah.
you may just be left out in the dark and never given the opportunity to show yourself off. Those that tend to succeed tend to have a bit of both. You need to know how to get yourself out there,
Yeah.
you know, win the work and whatever it might be. Is that something that plays on your mind? Is that a skill you've had to hone?
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like I'm learning it, to be honest. I don't know what the formula is. I mean, if I did, that'd be amazing, because then I could just smash it. But like I said, I'm not the most I'm not the most go get it, and really, like, you know, when you're on a shoot, it's like I'm going to talk to everybody because there's opportunities everywhere, you know. But it's still very intentional, I think, and it's you know, it is, yeah, I mean, yeah, what is putting yourself out there? You have a website, like, are people going to see the website? I don't know, but it's there, so I hope people do. And if people ask, I'll send them the link. And I'm very happy to chat about what I love doing, and I love hearing what other people are doing, so hopefully maybe that would be a way to do it. But I honestly don't have any like business advice, I don't think. Like, it's a rubbish answer to the question, but
No.
I just yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's just meeting people and being a nice guy, I hope, and people like you, and people like to work with people they like, you know.
Absolutely.
And I've found that in the people that I've chosen to work with. So, you know, just be a nice guy, and hopefully people will like you and go, oh, I remember that guy who ran around with a camera, perhaps I'll hire him to do something, you know. And hopefully it's the next James Bond film. I don't know.
Fingers crossed. Is there any advice you think you'd give the younger you?
Yeah, very good question. I think it would probably be something around the idea of comparison, I think. And like, I've spent so much of my life thinking someone else is doing something better than I am, or I don't know, believing something about myself in my own self as personal outside of filmmaking, and also as a filmmaker, that just is not true, just because of the way that I've perceived it, because I've seen someone else doing something. And again, it feeds into the whole Instagram story, you know, of just the comparison. And it, you know, it's so cliche, but it truly is the thief of joy. And I don't know, I'm like, I can think about I can count the amount of times where I'd just be like, oh, I'm not good enough for this, or like, I'm not going to do this because that's just not what people do. I don't know, perhaps it's like, I'm not going to go down that route, because if I went down that route, that's just not right, because this isn't how they've done it and stuff. And, you know, you don't know everyone's journey. And going back to my friend's thing, I didn't even know my best mate wasn't actually working that much, and it's just like, and I know him better than I know anybody. So it's like, I don't know. I kind of I guess I don't wish I didn't do it the way I did it, because I think it's kind of shaped how I am now. But there's definitely been a lot of moments where I could have just kind of let myself chill out a little bit, and just not stress about what people think or why there's a certain way to do it, because I don't think that's true in any sense of the word.
I think that's wise words that a lot of people, myself included, could take note of.
I need to take note of that as well. I'm saying that being like, I don't even listen to that.
Well, when this is released, just we'll take that time code snippet out and just send it to you and remind you every once in a while. You've said it to yourself. What does the future hold for you? You've got your sights set on perhaps honing, furthering that skill of cinematography. What else can you say about that?
Yeah, I mean that's really it, to be honest. For me, it's stepping more into the idea of being solely a cinematographer, going more down a commercial route, or at least broadening what my portfolio looks like, and not just being such a sort of one-trick pony in what I'm doing. And honestly, like it has been with the whole thing, it's just like, see what happens, because I love it. Like, I genuinely love the variety of it. I love just, you get to travel. I was once filming Tesco's ham being made. It's like, it's not glamorous, and then it's glamorous, and it's like, it's cool, man. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't know, I'm just excited to see what happens. And honestly, like, I don't have a 5-year plan, I don't have a 10-year plan, but I would love to look back and say, oh man, like that was a cool journey, and I've made some cool films, and hopefully I'm a cinematographer and I'm working on films. I don't know, do you know what I mean? But
absolutely,
that's definitely the direction that I'm heading, and we'll see where it goes.
Well, Dom, it sounds like you're well on your way, and we would certainly love to, keep in contact, see how you're doing in a little while, and get you back on the show. But it's been a complete joy having you here, Dom. So thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, absolutely.